Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt, joined now by United States Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas fame. Senator, welcome. Are you going to CPAC this weekend?
Hey, Hugh, good to be on with you. I will be at CPAC speaking tomorrow afternoon.
All right, so that's point number one. I'm just making sure I know who's going to be there. Point number two, have you read the New York Times article on Smith College yet?
No, I haven't, Hugh, but Dwayne was just telling me about it. Sounds surprising that the New York Times would publish such an article. I suspect there's going to be a revolt among the child mob in their newsroom, and heads are going to roll. So that's the way it usually happens.
That's what Garrity predicted as well, that Mr. Goodman, who wrote it, that he will not be long for the world since you destroyed the internal workings of the New York Times earlier this year. Third question, and most important of all, will Xavier Becerra be confirmed? Because he is a dangerous confirmee. He's a terrible lawyer and an ideologue.
Well, Hugh, I certainly hope he won't be confirmed. He's been one of my top priorities among the many unqualified and dangerous nominees Joe Biden has made. Look, Xavier Becerra has zero healthcare experience. He has been a partisan politician his entire life. Normally the HHS secretary is a doctor or dean of public health school or pharmaceutical executive. They have some experience in public health. Xavier Becerra has zero. Second, he wants to take away your health insurance on the job. He has said repeatedly that he supports something like Medicare for All, which is a way to eliminate your health insurance on the job. As head of HHS, he'll control Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare, other health care programs that he can use and exploit, not for their original purpose, but as a way to take away your health insurance on the job. Third, he was the enforcer for Gavin Newsom's lockdowns in California. I mean, making sure that small businesses were crushed at a time when well-connected businesses like Hollywood production studios were continuing to work. And finally, he's a total radical when it comes to abortion. As you saw the other day, like, he won't rule out taxpayer-funded abortion. He believes that gruesome kinds of partial birth abortion are just fine. I mean, he's got a habit of suing pro-life counseling centers, making them advocate for abortion. And he lost that case 9-0 in the Supreme Court. The only reason he lost it 9-0, Hugh, is that there aren't 11 justices. So on every front, Xavier Becerra is a terrible nominee. And I certainly hope that some Democrats will join us in opposing him and getting someone who's actually qualified to run public health in the middle of a global pandemic.
It's always a bad sign when you have to tell your confirmation hearing that I did not sue nuns. In fact, he did sue nuns, so that was a lie. But it's never a good sign to have to announce that you do not sue nuns. I want to go back to the case you just mentioned. I've taught con law for 25 years. That was the most obvious unconstitutional example of enforced government speech on the premises of women crisis pregnancy centers, obliging them to give directions on where to receive an abortion. It's as though the government would make you put a bumper sticker on your car for a candidate you did not believe, and yet he prosecuted that. How do your Democratic colleagues look past that kind of a bad judicial record?
Yeah, so, well, you remember, most Democrats are pro-abortion. But this case is not about simply being pro-abortion, as most Democrats are. It is about enforcing against pro-life clinics that are trying to help counsel women in moments of crisis in their lives, a blatantly unconstitutional law that requires, as you say, the kind of force-compelled speech that is favored in California, but is still not permitted under our Constitution. And Xavier Becerra did it with great zeal. And I think some Democrats will have pause about supporting such a partisan legal culture warrior for such a job in the middle of a pandemic.
Now, let me talk to you about your colleague, Joe Manchin, who voted 50% of the time with President Trump when he was president in the first 2 years of his term and 34% of the time in the second 2 years. He's going to vote against Neera Tanden. He is going to vote for the Department of Interior nominee. Has he announced his position on Xavier Becerra yet?
Not to my knowledge, Hugh. I know Joe very well, and we obviously don't agree on every issue, but I respect Joe as a good voice for West Virginia. He's won elections there repeatedly, and a good man, Hugh. It is outrageous the way these Democrats are slandering Joe Manchin as a racist or a sexist because he is voting his conscience on these nominations. I mean, where were the Democrats when 44 of them voted against Seema Verma to run the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, when almost all of them voted against Ben Carson to run the Housing and Urban Development Department, when Chuck Schumer voted against Elaine Chao to be Secretary of Transportation? I guess it's okay for Democrats to vote against Republican nominees who are women or minorities. But if Joe Manchin does it or Republicans do it, they immediately start screaming racism and sexism. I can't imagine that that's going to be a very effective tactic for getting Joe Manchin's cooperation on every other nominee and piece of legislation.
I hope you're right. Last question is about the Senate parliamentarian. Do you have a ruling yet on whether or not the $15 an hour minimum wage passes the Byrd rule?
I don't, Hugh. I don't think it will. Even if it does, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema have already said they believe a $15 an hour minimum wage is too high for many parts of the country. That's one reason why Mitt Romney and I have introduced legislation that would increase the minimum wage gradually after the pandemic ends to $10 an hour. We would phase it in more slowly for small businesses, and most importantly, we would tie it to E-Verify to make sure that those higher wages are going to American workers.
You realize that attracted the attention favorable of the New York Times, Senator Cotton.
Oh, I can recant and confess of my sins to you.
Okay, I'm just saying, if you got to be careful, if the New York Times is endorsing a Romney-Cotton bill, the world may be nearing an end. Safe travel to and from Florida CPAC on Saturday afternoon. Senator Tom Cotton will be giving a speech. Do not miss it, America.